Okay, well, let's go now to Glasgow, where we can hear from Jim Murphy, the leader of the Scottish Labour Party.
Of the border. I'm under no illusion as to how big our defeat was or how big our challenges are. But I believe a leader of this party has a bigger responsibility to party members than to leave without a plan for those who follow in the future. It'd be wrong to leave behind division and the same problems that have dogged our party for a decade or arguably more. This is why it was important to have the backing of the Scottish Labour Party executive today, and I'm glad to have their backing. The backing of up to 2/3 of the members of the Scottish Parliament and all but a handful of the 40 defeated Labour MPs from last week. I wanted to have today's vote of confidence not out of personal pride or political ambition for myself, but I want to do it to ensure stability and to make sure that there is a plan for rebuilding rather than the poisoned legacy for another generation, as has happened far too often in the recent past. We need that sort of plan to build on the residual strength and the support that we got from hundreds of thousands of Scots in last week's election. The Scottish Executive of the Labour Party will meet again next month. For that meeting, I will work with colleagues to prepare a comprehensive report covering a plan for earning back the trust of Scottish voters, a strategic overview of the voters that we need to win back, and the challenges that we face as a party on the ground ahead for the next two sets of Scottish elections. A clear understanding of Scottish voters' concerns and aspirations. A plan for reshaping Scottish Labour Party using all of our talents, widening our membership and ensuring the best possible range of talents from our membership and beyond. And above all, defending the rights of Labour Party members and putting them back at the heart of our organisation. We should have a system of one member, one vote, as the UK Labour Party has, for the election of all future leaders of this party. I'll also, in that report, provide a fresh assessment of our policy platform, preparing for using new powers and then bringing them closer to the voters and out of the Holyrood Parliament. Looking also at how we defend solidarity across the UK in the face of rising nationalisms, both north and south of the border, and the threats that we must face to mitigate a Tory government and the challenges of poverty, poor educational attainment and ill health. I'm clear that the answer for the Scottish Labour Party will not be found in the tinkering with our constitution. We need to think far more deeply than that. No option in that report that I produced for next month's meeting of the Scottish Labour Party executive, no option will be off the table except the status quo. It is clear that a small minority who didn't accept my election as party leader just 5 months ago won't accept the vote of the executive today, and that will continue to divide the party. Today I received more support in the executive vote than I did from members of the executive when I stood for election 5 months ago. So when I table that report at next month's meeting of the Scottish Labour Party executive, I will also table my resignation as leader of the Scottish Labour Party. It will be for the party executive to decide whether it accepts the reforms proposed, but a party in such urgent need of reform blocks those changes at its peril. I want my successor in place over the summer and to be able to start campaigning for 2016 and beyond with a party that has a clear purpose and platform, and where the leader knows that he or she will be able to lead with the authority that can never be challenged into 2016 and beyond, because it's an authority gained by all of the members in a one-person, one-vote arrangement. Now, I know that in the past few days, and I've become used to this over recent years, but I know in the past few days I've been at the centre of a campaign by the London leadership of Unite the Union, and they're blaming myself or the Scottish Labour Party for the defeat of the UK Labour Party in the general election. That is a grotesque insult to the Scottish Labour Party. It's a grotesque insult to our thousands of volunteers from someone who pays occasional fleeting visits to our great country. The trade union movement and individual trade unionists are a source of enormous strength and moral purpose for our party. And there will always be those who criticise the link and the precise relationships between the Labour Party and trade unions. But I'm clear the Labour Party's problem is not the link with trade unions or even the relationship with Unite members. Far from it. It is the destructive behaviour of one high-profile trade unionist. One of the things about stepping down is that you can say things in public that so many people in the Labour Party only say in private. So whether it's in Scotland and the contest to come across the UK, we cannot have our leaders selected or deselected by the grudges and grievances of one prominent man. The leader of the Scottish Labour Party doesn't serve at the grace of Len McCluskey, and the new next leader of the UK Labour Party should not be picked by Len McCluskey. Just finally, the Labour Party has been and will always be like a second family to me. I've met many of my best friends. I've laughed and cried this week. Won and lost. We've done too much of the latter, and with the exception of Ian, none of the former. And with Labour, I've laughed and cried and won and lost with Labour people, and they're the best people I've ever stood with. But far more than the immense pride that I felt in standing with the remarkable people in our party is the pride in our values. That feeling of being part of a great cause, and the knowledge that the work that you do is not for yourself, but for the betterment of people whose names you don't know and whose faces you will never look upon. That is what it means for me to be Labour. To commit yourself to a cause that was there long before any of us were born, and that will outlive any election defeat or one person's leadership. A society and an economy where the strong use their strength to look after the weak. A community where strangers look after each other as if they were family. A home for everyone where children are safe and their minds and their mouths are nourished. Scotland needs a strong Labour Party. Scotland needs a united Labour Party. We have been the greatest force for change in our nation's remarkable history. The Scottish Labour Party will rise again. It will be under someone else's leadership, and I'm confident about my party's future. Thank you very much. And I'll happily answer. Oh, Ian, you're going to chair this bit.
Yeah, answer questions.
I should have congratulated Ian on your election.
Okay, questions? No, none.
Jim, to be clear, you're standing down in a month's time.
Yes.
But it'll take longer than that to bring another leader into place, surely. So who's going to lead the party after you stand down?
Once I stand down, Kezia Dugdale, the deputy, will fulfil the role as acting leader. I will stand down at the next meeting of the Scottish Labour Party executive. But the problem that the Scottish Labour Party has had for some time is that we've had leaders who have left at a moment's notice. And they all for their own, I don't kind of question the reasons, but we know what happened. Wendy left abruptly, Henry left abruptly, Joanne left abruptly. And we need that period of stability over the next month so that by the time of the next Scottish Labour Party executive, I'll table that report about the modernisation of the Scottish Labour Party, because to some extent the Scottish Labour Party is the least modernised part of the entire UK Labour movement, and that can no longer continue. So that executive meeting, I'll table those proposals, we'll debate those proposals, and at the end of that meeting, my resignation will take effect, and the executive at the same meeting will agree the rules for the leadership contest that would then follow. And my recommendation, it'd be one member, one vote, where no trade unionist in London has any influence in picking who that should be.
Jim, have you made up your mind that you were going to resign before today's
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'd taken a small number of people into my confidence. But I thought it was important. I thought it was important to go to the Scottish Labour Party executive today and get a vote of confidence from a group. The vote, as you'll probably know, is 17-14. To be backed by 17 of those people at the executive. In an executive, actually, where only 13 people voted for me. I was pleased to get that backing. But I'd made my decision before that. But I think it's really important that a decision, this is what it comes to. The crux of me is this, two things. Firstly, the kind of siren voice from behind a big desk in Unite's headquarters in London shouldn't be allowed to instruct. what the Scottish Labour Party does. And secondly, the executive shouldn't take the opportunity to overturn a decision arrived at 5 months ago by thousands of Labour Party members and thousands of trade unionists. And the executive, in my opinion, was to be invited to overturn the democratic decision of the entire Labour movement here in Scotland. And I think it was important to say to Labour Party members that the executive respected their opinions and wouldn't undo the election and the decision that was taken in December 13th of last year.
Do you feel hounded out then?
No, not at all. No. Do you know, in my politics, you've got to have a really thick skin in politics. And I think you saw in the referendum just how thick my skin can be. And I've got used to calling the small band of worshippers who follow my every move by their first name. No, hounded out by half a dozen folk with nothing better to do but to trample over. Who trample over kind of passers-by in their attempt to kind of think up a witticism. No, not at all. But no, I love my party. I want to leave my party with a kind of programme of reform, an agenda for modernising its structures, giving it a healthier democracy, giving more power to the members and to individual trade unionists, rather than just walking in an abrupt way, as has happened too often in the past. Now, look, my skin was thick before I'd done this job. It hasn't needed to get any thicker, believe me. But look, it's for me now time to do something else.
So you're saying that you're going to modernise the party. What are you going to do that? And are you the right person to be writing this report?
Yeah, well, I told the executive after winning the vote of confidence today that I would produce a report for the next meeting of the executive. I know that some members of the executive will be disappointed today, who were looking forward to us having that discussion and that debate, and who'd given me their confidence, the majority that had given me their kind of wholehearted and quite passionate confidence vote.
But the party's still divided. I mean, you're saying 17-14. It's still, the executive's still divided. Are you the right person to bring about a report that will...
Well, my last act as leader is to give more power to the party members. I neither believe it's right that we maintain an outdated system of the electoral college for elections of leader, and nor do I believe that an executive should be allowed to overturn a decision of the party members and trade unions when they have an election. Yeah, I'm the right. For the next month, I'll consult party members across the country. I'll listen to politicians across the country. I'll listen to those who didn't vote for us across the country. Come forward with a blueprint for reform, which will be more substantial than the last 3 decades of reform that the Scottish Labour Party has put itself through. I want us to, in 1 month and in 1 meeting, undertake a deeper, more meaningful reform than the Scottish Labour Party has been through for 3 decades.
Does the Scottish Labour Party have to distance itself more from Labour in London? We heard it referred to before as a branch office. I know that's a criticism.
Not by me.
Of course.
Not by me in the job, and not by me in leaving the job. I love the Labour Party. In leaving the Labour Party, I want to make us stronger. I leave no legacy of bitterness towards anyone in the Scottish Labour Party. As you can kind of tell, the only person I have it a go at is the person who blamed the Scottish Labour Party for the United Kingdom Labour Party's defeat at last week's election. So in terms of the relationship between the British Party, I should call it the British Party rather than the UK Party, shouldn't I, to be kind of constitutionally correct. The relationship between the British Party and the Scottish Party, that will continue to change. But it will be for others to work out the precise nature of that. But the Scottish Labour Party underwent pretty substantial constitutional reform just a few months ago, where we put in our new Clause 4 of the Scottish Labour Party's constitution that all decisions about what happens in devolved policy here in Scotland would be made here in Scotland. And that was really important, that we expressed our patriotism in our constitution, and we said that we're in charge. Now, for the next month, on all issues relating to domestic policy here in Scotland, I'm in charge. When it comes to the Labour Party, I'll call the shots in Scotland for the next month, but it'll then be up to my successor to do that in an effective way. I don't mind, you both get a shot. I don't mind which one of you, it's not a competition.
by standing down, you're not simply creating a problem for your successor, whoever he or she might be, in that they, the looks that there'll be another defeat that hands the SNP next year, and then they in turn will have to step down.
No, I think the Scottish Labour Party, well, first of all, I hope there's a range of candidates who'll stand as in the leadership candidature. There was the last time. But you know, politics changes quickly, as we know.